Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage. And if you probably haven't guessed already, yes, we're back on with the Sony ICF-PRO80 radio receiver repair. Because I really need to get this back to the poor chap that it belongs to, because I've had it for some time now. Unfortunately, I have just before I started making this video, I have just spotted something. I don't actually have one of the values of capacitors that I need. I've actually misread the capacitor. I thought what we needed on here was all 47 UF and 22 UF capacitors. Two of those 22 UF capacitors, that one there and there, aren't. They're actually 2.2 UF capacitors. Now, I have just been online. I have ordered some, so we could basically do all the rest of the work we need to on this board. We can change all the other capacitors, do all the clean-up work, but I will have to wait until those two capacitors arrive before I can put those two back on. Fortunately, they're in a place on the board where it's not too terrible to do that, because they're both right on the outside of the board there. So that's basically what we're going to do in this video. We'll take off all the other capacitors on here. We'll have a really good clean up of the board. I actually just noticed there's a capacitor there which is the value is obscured, so we'll have to clean that up and see what that is. Do all the rest of the work, and then there will be another video on this where we'll put the final capacitors in there. We'll do the repair work we need to these connectors, and we'll actually put the radio back together and see if we've made any progress with it. Anyway, I suppose the best thing we can do is just crack on with this and get some of these capacitors changed. I think I'm going to probably start with this one over here. We've got a 47 UF at 6 volts all on its own there, and it does have quite a bit going on round it really. Get my tweezers to point with. Basically we have to be incredibly careful that we don't damage that connector there. We could, I suppose, actually take this board off from the sub chassis that it's on. It is like fixed to a aluminium sub chassis like this. Remove that connector and then take that capacitor off, but it's a hell of a lot of work for one capacitor, so I think before I do that, I am just going to try just see if we can walk that capacitor off the board, clean up and put a new one on there without actually having to do that. Like I said, if we do have to do it, we do have to do it, but it's a lot more work really. So let's get some flux. And we'll put some extra flux straight on the board just to help. See if we can get this capacitor off. Now this side here of the capacitor is a little bit easier to get to, so what we'll probably do is try and lift it from that side first, and once we've got it up a bit we can go in at that side. I will get some fresh solder ready as well, so if we need to we can add a little bit of new fresh solder. Now fortunately there doesn't seem to be a lot of corrosion around that capacitor, so we may be in luck on this one. Clean my iron up because that's looking a little bit scabby. There we go. And we'll try adding a little bit of fresh solder to that joint in there. Like that. Yeah, this definitely is leaking, that capacitor, because I've got the bad fish smell straight away, but I think other capacitors on the board have leaked far worse. It's not one of the worst ones, because it's a faint whiff of bad fish, unlike somewhere you get an absolute stench. Right, let's see if we can get in there and lift this side first. It's going to be awkward, this one, I think. Let's try holding it with something a little bit more substantial. I was trying to find my forceps before because those are really good for doing this, but I cannot find them anywhere. I'll have to see if I can buy another set, because they were proper, you know, like ex-medical forceps, and they were really handy for taking capacitors off boards. Now that has lifted on that side. We'll see if we can get in on this side and lift this side of the capacitor up. Come on, up you come. There we go. That came up okay, and let's just see if we can just ping it off without doing any damage. There we go. That's the capacitor off. We can get him out of the way. Like I said, it's not a really pungent smell of bad fish here, so I don't think that had only just started leaking. We got to that one really in double quick time, fortunately. So we're just gonna have to do a little bit of a clean up around here, get some of that excess solder off there, and clean that pad up, ready to accept the new capacitor. I'll take a little bit of solder wick. Where's my flux? Even though this has got a flux built into it, I always like to just add a little bit of my own as well. Just makes the solder wick work that little bit better. And we'll have a quick clean up in there. Be absolutely extra careful that we don't catch any little surface mount components around here while we're doing it. Go in there, just clean that off. Clean that one off. Now, I think we may have a pad there that's ever so slightly lifted, just to one side of it, so that electrolyte definitely has had an effect there. Let's see if I can get you down a tiny touch more on the camera. Oops, the wrong way. Why do I always do that? Okay. Now this is the area that we're. There we go. This is the area that we're, no it's not, it's there, sorry. This is the area that we're working on right here now. And I think that just the end of that pad there is just ever so slightly started to lift. Fortunately, I think we've just caught it in time. I don't think it's going to cause a major issue. And we'll have a little bit of a clean up in that area though. Quick spray with a little bit of IPA. And we'll go in with a toothbrush, but we'll be super careful, and we will make sure we brush all in the same direction, because I don't want to risk trying to lift that pad if it is a little bit on the iffy side. In fact, if we clean it up, we could perhaps just get a little bit of conformal coating underneath that and just help to just secure it back down. It's a ground side, so we can check continuity with the pad as well, which is probably a good thing to do. In fact, let's do that first. Get my continuity tester out. Get some leads, connect that up. Okay, and we'll just test from that pad. Yeah, that pad's still nicely connected on the ground plane, so we don't have to worry too much, but I think we may we'll just use a little bit of conformal coating around it just to make sure it's not going to come free. You can literally use it as a glue to just help hold that pad down. First we'll have a little bit more of a clean up around there. Being super careful around that pad, because we don't want to risk pulling the pad up. It's literally just on the very start of the pad there. where it's just started to lift. So I think we'll get a tiny little bit of conformal coating and just go around there just to reinforce it basically. I might just be able to squeeze a little bit out onto the end of my tweezers and do it like that. We're going to need very little. Just put a little bit just round there like that. You can still see the all the pad to actually reconnect the new capacitor on top. It'll just help hold down where that pad has just lifted on that side. Let's put those out of harm's way for a second and find my UV light. And we'll just cure that. Takes about 20 or 30 seconds just with a bit of UV light, and we can just cure that in, and then we can put the new capacitor in place. It all looks fairly nice and clean around there as well. Can't see any corrosion on that ICs there. There's legs. All the surface mount capacitors around it also look reasonably clean. So I'm fairly confident we caught that one when it was just starting to leak. But even so, it still has done damage to the board. So I don't think that was from me lifting the old capacitor off, because that side come up fairly easily. It's just literally, it's a little bit of electrolyte can do a lot of damage, unfortunately. Right, we can say that that will be cured now. So that's all good. That's ready for a new capacitor to go on. So we want a 47 at 6 volts, I believe. There's the old one. Yeah, we want a 47 at 6 volts. So let's see if we've got one of those. Well, no, I've got one of those. Yeah, there we go. There's our new capacitors. Get one of those out. Okay. Put those away so I don't lose them. But there's our new capacitor that will be fitted that way around like that. Yeah, there's just enough room to get that in there and soldered down nicely. So we'll pop that out, and I'm just going to add a little bit of extra solder to the bottom of the capacitor. Basically just tin the legs up. It makes your life a little bit easier when you've not got a lot of room, like here when you want to slide the component into place. So a little bit of you can see that there. And all we want to do is just add the tiniest little touch of solder to the bottom of the component first. And we will try and solder this side first, and then we can go in to the other side. And that's down. We can just go in on this side and solder that side down. Oops. There we go, that's in. And we'll just go back on this side and just tidy this side up a little touch. There we go. And that's the new capacitor in place there. Now let's take our attention and let's have a look at this capacitor here, which has actually got the number obscured on it. Now, I don't think there's anything special about the capacitor, so I'm not 100% sure why they've put a blodge of like marker pen or something on it, but that should just come off with a little bit of IPA. Hopefully. We may have to use something a little bit stronger, but we'll try some IPA first. That is bringing it off. Yeah, we can see it's a 6-volt capacitor, but so far we haven't found the value of it. As you can see, it is cleaning off. So unfortunately, so far all I can see is it's a 6-volt capacitor. I haven't actually revealed the value yet. Give me a second. There we go. So we need, it's a 47 UF at 6 volts. It's just the same capacitor as we've just changed. I don't know why it had some marker pen over the top of it, obscuring its value, but that's what the value is. So let's change that one next. Okay, it doesn't look like that has really leaked, but we're going to change it anyway, just as a matter of course, because we don't want to leave any of the old electrolytics in this thing. Because if they haven't leaked yet, they are going to leak eventually. All these late 80s, early 90s electrolytic capacitors eventually do end up leaking. Right, again, we'll probably start with adding a little bit of fresh flux. So I don't anticipate having too much issues with this one, because it doesn't look like it's got a lot of leakage around it, if any, really. We'll stick a little bit of flux around it just to help ease it off the board. And seeing this side seems to be the easiest side to actually access, we'll add a little bit of fresh solder to that side. I can actually, again, like the other capacitor, now I've actually put the iron on the board, I am getting a very faint fishy smell. It's not really strong. So again, I think this has probably just started to leak. We'll hold it and we'll just see if we can get this side up. There we go, that's that side's just lifted. And actually that fishy smell has now I've actually lifted the capacitor up and it's got to the electrolyte underneath. That smell has actually got a little bit stronger, so I think this one is was on its last legs. Again, we will just see if we can walk it off the board, so I will go in here, get hold of it and just see if I can walk it up. This side is being a little bit awkward for some reason. There's a bit more of a ground plane on this side, which I think is not helping. There we go, that's coming up. And then hopefully we can spin it back round get the iron back under there and just walk it up and off. There we go, that side's up. Again, go back around to this side, heat that pad up. We should be able to get that capacitor to come off then. There we go, that's come up. Just being a little bit awkward, this one. Yeah, I think this one's leaked a little bit more than I initially thought it had, because the electrolyte smell is really quite strong now. That has actually come off free from the board. Let's lift that off. Yeah, and it's actually left one of its legs behind, so we'll get the bottom of the capacitor off, and then we'll see what we can do about getting rid of that leg. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to have damaged the pad. There we go, it's actually come off. It was just holding on for dear life. There we go, that's out of the way. And it doesn't look too bad in there. Again, we'll go in, we'll add some extra flux. We'll go in with a little bit of solder braid and see if we can clean that up. Then we'll go in with some IPA and we'll give it a bit of a clean up after that. But with what I know from doing that one there, I'm going to be super careful around there, because it seems to want to lift pads. I'll get some fresh flux on that. I think we'll even put a little bit of fresh on the board there, just to help ourselves out. Let's turn. Right, I think I can get in there to see that, can I? Yes, I can. We'll go in there and have a quick clean up. The first pad cleaned up. Get rid of that off the end of my. And we'll go in and we'll clean the next one up, and then we'll go in with a bit of IPA and have a quick clean up with that. Getting in here can be really tricky. It's a toss up with what tip you use on your iron as well. I've got a very pointed tip on this iron at the moment, which it's good in one way because you can get in between components, but the actual amount of thermal mass you can get onto the board because you're using such a fine tip is limited a little bit. We'll try adding a little bit of fresh solder in there. Like that. We're going to add a little bit to that, and we'll go for another clean, I think. You may have noticed I am trying another camera handle on this video as well. I've actually got the camera behind the workbench rather than over my shoulder. I'm just seeing whether that's going to work any better, so let me know what you think about that as a camera angle. Let's get in there, see if we can get that to clean off. That's better. I've got a little bit of old leg there I need to get rid of. Got rid of that. Okay, that first pad is looking really nice and clean. Second pad, I think I'll go in and just have another little bit of a okay, apologies there folks, the battery in my camera died. I still haven't got 100% used to this new camera, and I don't think the batteries last quite as long as the little display on the camera says they should do. But anyway, I put a new battery in it, and let's carry on. Hopefully you haven't missed too much. All I've done literally is have a little bit of a clean up in this area. I don't think you've missed anything important. So we're ready to put a new capacitor on there, and then we can concentrate on this area here. So let's get a new capacitor to go in there. I think that's that. No, that's not them. That's these here. Excuse me. Yes, overall I'm reasonably happy with this camera that I got, because it wasn't massively expensive, but like I said, it was second hand, and obviously I think the batteries probably aren't in the best of condition, so I may have to buy a battery for it. And if I can find one, I think it can actually take a remote control, so I may even stump up for a remote control for it as well, because that would be a nice useful feature. Right, I'll do like I did on the last one, and we'll just tin up, get it off, come on, we'll just tin up the bottom of the capacitor before we start. So you don't need a lot, just a tiny little touch of solder on each side. That'll do. And again, we'll do the same with the board. Just make sure we've got a nice bit of solder on those pads. Oops, let's see if we can get it on there a little bit better. This is a very, very fiddly to do. There goes a bit on there. That's it, that's better. Okie dokie, let's get ready to put that new capacitor on there, and we will probably put it on that way around, I think. Being that we can get into this side a little bit easier. And then once we've got this side down, we can slide the other side in. That side's gone down nicely. We'll spin the board round. I think we can get this side to just get that capacitor a little bit straighter, and there we go. We've got a good electrical connection. The capacitor is actually slightly askew, but you know what? We've got a good electrical connection on both sides. I'm actually going to leave it like that because I'm happy. Basically, the capacitor is electrically absolutely fine. It's just a tiny little bit to one side like that, but that's not going to worry me. It's in. We've cleaned up all around it. Unfortunately, like I said, there was no trace damage around there. So all we've got really left to do is sort out this area here. Now these are the two capacitors, unfortunately, which I don't currently have replacements for. I do have two on the way. Well, I've got more than two. I had to buy a strip of 10, but at least I've got some in for future use. And these are, like I said, I thought they were 22 UF. They're not. They're 2.2 UF at 50 volts. As where that one there and that one there are 22 UF at 6 volts. And we've got a standard 47 UF at 6 volts there, just like the ones we've just changed already. So I think what we'll do, even though we're not going to change them straight away, we're just going to pull, first thing we'll do is we'll pull all these capacitors off the board, so we can have a really good clean up of that area there. I'm going to start by taking these 2.2s off. Let's try adding a little bit of fresh solder. Oh, and that really does stink. Yuck. Let's see if this is going to lift. I have to use something a little bit more heavy duty. Oh god, that is a stinky one. So it looks like these smaller value ones seem to have leaked the worst actually. That side's up. So we can get this side up here. That's lifted up. And then, like I said, hopefully we should just be able to walk this off the board. That side's up, and that's that off the board. That came off quite nicely, but the smell is horrendous. That is really, really, really nasty. Okay, so we've got that one off the board there. We need to pop this one off the board here. Try adding again a little bit of fresh solder. And just going around this, you can really smell. It's quite unpleasant. So I think this is where it's leaked the worst, really. Let's get hold of you. This one doesn't want to. It's just about going. I think we've got a lot more actual reaction with the solder on this one than we've had with some of the other ones. It's coming now. There we go. Up it comes. Let's just see if we can get that off the board. Have we lost a trace? We may have lost a trace there. Let's see. Nope, 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 we're happy. We didn't lose the trace. The trace is still there intact. In fact, we'll have a quick look round that to make sure it is still nicely attached. Let's have a look. Now, again, no, unfortunately, we've still got our pad there, but it has come loose. Let's have a really careful clean round there, and then we will see if we can reattach that pad with a little bit of conformal coating before we even go in here and see if we can remove these 3 capacitors. Now, if we do lose that pad, it's not the end of the world because it is a ground pad and it'll be directly connected with the ground pad that capacitor there is on. So we should just be able to put a little bridge in. But hopefully we won't have to do that, and we can save that pad. So first things first, let's have a little bit of a spray down with a bit of IPA. Let's get a new Q-tip, and we have to be super careful while we're doing this, obviously, because we have a loose pad there and we don't want to break it free, but we do need it clean around it so we can repair it. Right, let's get a bit of solder wick in and clean some of this excess solder off. So we will again add a little bit of extra flux to the solder braid, and then we'll go in and we'll just get rid of some of the extra solder that I've dropped while I've been taking that off. Just get it out of the way like that. That's a big pile of that off. Trim that down. I always like to trim my wick as I go. I don't like big trails of used wick on the end of my solder wick, so clean that, just trim that back off a little bit. Again, we'll add a little bit of extra solder. Sorry, add a little bit of extra flux to the wick. Let's just go in and see if we can tidy this up a bit now. There we go. So we've just tidied that area up there, cleaned it all up. We'll go in again with a little bit more IPA. Let's get a fresh Q-tip out. And we'll clean up around this area here. Have to be super careful around that pad there that lifted. In fact, we'll have to do a quick continuity check on that before we go any further. There we go. You can see all the crud that's come off there. That's basically all the leaked electrolyte that we've cleaned off. Okay, there we go. And we'll get a tiny touch of conformal coating and just reattach that pad. You literally do need the tiniest amount of this stuff when you're doing a repair like this. Too much and you're going to get it everywhere. Just get a little bit underneath that pad there, like that. Smush it down. And what I think I'll actually do, I've got the conformal coating on it there. Let's get my UV light. And we'll just hold that pad down like that, and we'll hit it with the UV light just while it cures off. So this takes 20 or 30 seconds. Apart from that, it's actually not bad at all around here. We'll see when we get them over the last 3 capacitors off, but it's not looking too terrible. Okay, that should do us. There we go, and that's that done. So we've recovered that little bit of damage there. Now let's get these last 3 capacitors off for today. We can replace them because we've got replacements for all them. And then all we're waiting for are those 2.2 UFs to go back in that position there. And that's basically all the recapping done. Then we can actually start putting this radio back together. Right, let's get those last 3 capacitors off. So where's my flux gone? That is the one I'm going to be most careful of, obviously, because we've just done that repair to that pad right next to it. Let's see if we can get these off. Put a little bit of fresh flux on there. In fact, we'll do that one while we're here. And I've got the flux in my hand. Now, fortunately, that end one there, I can't see any signs of leakage around the legs, so that one might be an easy one. We'll start with this 22 UF here though. We'll try the same approach. We'll basically just get hold of it, go in with the iron and see if we can get that side to lift up. There we go, that's lifted. And we'll try doing it the other way and see if we can get that to walk up. Yeah, this one's coming off reasonably easy. Sides up. And go back in that side. Lift that up. That's coming up. And it is literally just a case of walking the capacitor up and off the board. You know, actually add a little bit of fresh solder there just to make that life a little bit easier for that one. See if we can get into it. And obviously, basically what happens is the fresh solder mixes with that old contaminated solder, makes it flow easier and makes it easier for you to get the component up and off the board. Okay, that's up. Come on, off you come. There we are, that's off, and that's off. And that's not very fishy either, so I don't think that one was terribly leaky. I'll do this 47 next. Let's see if we can get it to walk this way first. We'll go in there, warm that up. That side's come up easily enough. And let's go in on the side closest to where we had to do that repair. Lift that side up. Now I can smell a rather unpleasant smell when I've started lifting that. So it looks like these 47s are one of the leakier capacitors. Not as bad as that them 2.2s I've just taken off. They stank. But this 47 is giving quite a fishy smell out as I heat it up. That's up on that side. I'll just see if we can go up on that side and lift that up. Now that side of the capacitor is pretty much up and off. We've just got this side here which has been a little bit problematic. There we go, and it's off. And it actually doesn't look too bad underneath either. It looks better there than I was actually expecting. Let's get this last capacitor off and then we'll have a clean up. Then we can throw 3 new capacitors on there. Like I said, and that's as far as we can really go today. Let's get this last 22 off. Sides up. That side's up on that one. And again, not a terribly strong fishy smell around here. So there we go, and that one's off. I think if that had started to leak, it had only just started to leak, we got away with them. Right, let's get a bit of flux around this board and we'll clean that solder off, and then we'll have a good clean up around that part of the board, and then we can get some new capacitors in. We'll get a bit of flux. This really does just help with the clean up process really. We'll get some solder braid in. End off that. Yep. Right, okay. And we can go in and we can have a little bit of a clean up in this area here. Let's start with that first one up there. That's cleaned off quite nicely. I think there's a bit of leg stuck on that one there. Maybe not. Let's try that again. No, it's just a nice pad that. Right, let's go down and do these two. There we go, that's cleaned off, and then we've finally got these last two here, which are the other 22 UF. So let's get them cleaned off. There we go. and all those pads there actually look pretty good. So we'll have a little bit of a clean up in this area with a bit of IPA, and then we can put those capacitors back on. Let's give it a quick blast of that. I'll go in very, very gently with the toothbrush just to agitate it a little bit. Obviously I want to be super careful because we have had to do that repair on that pad over there. But that's not looking bad at all. Let's get a fresh Q-tip. I really need to buy some new Q-tips. I'm getting rather low. Well, this is one of my fancy Chinese ones. I don't normally use these for stuff like this, but we'll go in with it. When I say fancy Chinese ones, what I mean by that is I actually bought these when I was in China, and they are actually Chinese Q-tips. In fact, they seem to be a little bit hard for this. I might revert back to my my normal Q-tips actually. For anyone interested, my usual favourite brand are just like the cheap Johnson & Johnson ones you get from Boots. They do seem to work reasonably well for this. There we go. A bit of a clean up round there. We seem to have got rid of all the nasty electrolyte there. That's not looking too bad actually. So we should be ready to put some new components on there. We'll tin the board up first, and we'll get some new 22 on there, new 47 on there, and a new 22 on there, and then we're ready to do those last ones when they arrive in the post. We'll add a little bit of solder to those pads there, a little bit to those pads there, a little bit to those pads there. Okay, there we go. Now we need a 47 and two 22s. So I've got a 47 here. Let's get one of them out. Where my tweezers gone? There they are. So that is our new 47. Put them away because I'll be finished with them. Oops. Go on, get back in your tub. Get in your tub, you little bugger. There we go. That's away, and we want two 22s, don't we? So there's our 47. And then we'll get a couple of 22s out. There's one. There's another one. Okay. That should be us good for the moment. Right, lovely. Now again, we'll tin these up before we actually use them. We'll start with the 47, I think. We'll tin that up. Come on, stand up. There we go. Just clean my iron off. Got some schmutz on the end of my iron, and it doesn't make for a good solder joint. There we go, I'm happy with that now. So let's put that one in place first. And ground is that way round. That's that one in there. and that's soldered there. Okay, so we'll just give that a little bit of a reheat on that side and just push it down a little bit like that. There we go, that's our 47 in place. Let's do the 22s. So again, I'll just tin those up before we start. And you do just need a tiny touch of solder to do this. Can you see what I'm doing? Let me move the board that way a tiny touch, and I'll move up that way a tiny touch so you can see what I'm actually doing. So we'll just tiny touch of solder on each pad, like that. Bring the board back in so you can see what we're doing on the board. Then we need to orientate our capacitor so we're the right way round, because the little white dot on the board there indicates the ground, which is the black stripe on the capacitor. So let's bring that into position, and there we go. In fact, we might have to do that one the other way around, because I can't get in to the other pin. I'll have to spin the whole board round, and sometimes this is what you have to do so you can actually get your component into the right place. Like that. I might have to even go over a little bit with that. I can't quite get to the pad on this side to solder it down, so we'll just rewind that and just bring that component over a little bit more, spin that over, okay, just spin it back this way. There we go, got it. And then just push it down there, like that. And that is in position. I've got a good solder connection on both sides. That was just a little bit on the tricky side. Okay, and the last one. Now where's our new shiny component ready to go on there? That's an old one, that's an old one. There's the new one. So all we've got to do is add that last component there, which is this one. And again, we've got our white spot that side, so it goes in the same way. That side's gone down. Oh, it hasn't. Just clean my iron off as such. So we're having a little bit of trouble with these ones. Let's try that again. And that side's down. I'll turn the board round again, and we should be able to get this final point to solder into place. Just heat the two parts up, push it down. There we go, lovely. Again, we can just spin that around, just neaten up that last solder joint there, like that. Lovely. Okay, and that's we're pretty much there. So all we've got to do now I will have a tiny little bit of a clean up around here, get rid of a little bit of that solder residue, that flux residue. But literally all we've got to do now is put those two capacitors there in position when they arrive, and then it's really a case of just then we've got those pins which are broken off on that connector there to repair. And then really it's a case of just reassembling the radio and seeing if it actually works now. But we will be doing that in the next video on this thing, because I think this video is already quite long, and plus I have to wait for those two capacitors to arrive before I can carry on with this thing. So I'll say I hope you enjoyed that little update on the project. Hopefully we're not going to be too far off the end of this, and then I can get on with some computer related things which I'm itching to get on with. So I will say I hope you enjoyed this little video, and thanks for watching, and goodbye.